Invictus Games' 1 year to go event got off to a great start, and I have all the deets. So let's get into it. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. And if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about the Invictus Games 2025 taking place in Vancouver, Whistler, and their 1 year to go event that started yesterday. We got some amazing shots of Harry and Meghan at 2 different events and at their Valentine's dinner. Now, I'm not going to share the pictures from Valentine's Day. However, we will talk about their evening out as well as the restaurant they went to. So let's get started with the 1 year to go event that started yesterday. Of course, to get the details, I'm reading from Sussex.com, and the article is titled Invictus 1 year to go. This article was published yesterday on February 14th. Today, Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, kicked off Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 1 year to go events at the top of Whistler Blackcomb. The couple met with competitors from around the world who are part of the participating nation's training camp, where they are learning adaptive winter sports. Alongside competitors, the Duke tried adaptive sit-ski for the first time. The Duke and Duchess are looking forward to spending an incredible couple of days in British Columbia as they prepare for the first ever Winter Hybrid Games. The couple would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the event organizers, sponsors, the Invictus Games Foundation, True Patriot Love, volunteers, and the 4 host First Nations for welcoming the Games onto their land. I'm really glad the Invictus Games Foundation and Harry and Meghan, as well as Archwell and anyone else involved, are being very considerate and are working alongside Native people. That's the only way to go about it. It's not even about necessarily being progressive. It's about being respectful and considerate and seeing the humanity in others, even when people are unlike yourself. It takes nothing to show consideration for people when you are on their land, as we all should.
A prince getting a few pointers from the pros. After he quipped, "What could possibly go wrong?" Harry's first run down the hill on adaptive skis earns the applause of Invictus Games competitors and his wife. The Duke of Sussex isn't the only one at Whistler today trying this for the first time. He's joined by wounded warriors from about 20 countries, learning winter adaptive sports on the spot.
One of the things that's great about Invictus is that we don't choose our athletes necessarily by whether or not they'll win gold, but how much they'll benefit from the therapy.
People like Rosa Sanchez Bermudez from Colombia, who was paralyzed by a gunshot wound serving her country.
I don't feel my legs, but here, just having the arms, I feel that I can walk again.
Harry and Meghan are here to promote the Games coming to BC in 2025, the first in Canada since Toronto hosted in 2017, and the first to involve winter pursuits like skiing, skeleton, and wheelchair curling.
Meghan and Harry bring a certain celebrity to this. I'd want to say that these games wouldn't exist and they wouldn't be as successful as they are.
That wasn't their only outing yesterday. Harry and Meghan also shared an evening with the First Nations. Yet again, I'll be reading from Sussex.com, and the title of this article is Evening with the First Nations, and it was published February 14th. This evening, Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, toured the Squamish Litwack Cultural Center with youth ambassadors Chief Nelson and Wilson Williams. A reception at the center followed, where artists who created the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 logo debuted their artwork. This collaboration marks the first time all 4 First Nations have come together to develop a piece of art. Before I continue, I just kind of want to point out how huge that is. That's historical. And I just want to share that I am so impressed and very touched at how much consideration Harry and Meghan and the entire Invictus Games Foundation are showing so much respect and consideration and collaboration with the First Nations. Native people deal with a lot of disrespect and dismissiveness, and especially here in America, but again, they are in Canada. And I've seen that firsthand. And it's something that's always been very frustrating and stressful to me. It's something that I've always advocated about, and how much more respect we should all be showing the First Nations, and the way that the Invictus Games are collaborating and respecting and paying homage and working together in unity is exactly the kind of thing that people should be showing, doing, and practicing when they work on native land or with native people. Their voice matters, and this just exemplifies how Invictus, the foundation, as well as the games, are so much more than just competition and sport. Although those things are amazing, it actually matters the work that they do, but what matters most is how they go about it. And that to me leaves the biggest impression. And before we continue, I just kind of want to point out the Invictus Games 2023 in Dusseldorf, the theme was a home for respect. And there is no greater example of how the Invictus Games Foundation, Harry and Meghan, as well as the Invictus Games themselves, have truly walked in that same light. They are practicing what they preach, and they are showing respect. You cannot call it out if you yourself don't embody it. And I just find so much authenticity in the Invictus Games Foundation or the Invictus Foundation. And this is an example of why I feel that way. And although we are reading an article and we're talking about the evening with the First Nations, just this part here, that they're working alongside them and they're making sure to get their blessings and they're making sure to get their consent before using their land. And they're part of the process, even developing the artwork and even a historical moment like coming together for the first time as the first four nations and developing a piece of artwork for the first time together. That to me is just, I might actually tear. That is just insane that I am living in the time when I'm watching this happen, especially as an American. We've had the whole issue of the pipeline up north and how big that was and how no matter how much we protested, nothing could be done about it and how frustrating and defeated that felt. And seeing how Native people have been treated historically across the board. And as an American, and to see how in Canada, how it's done and how it took the Invictus Foundation to show how it's done and how so many other organizations, because this has happened with the Invictus Foundation, how so many other organizations, hopefully the government here in America, as well as in Canada, will continue to walk in that same light and take a few cues as to how this was handled. You cannot use someone's land without their consent. And when you do, and when you use your power, your force, your might to bulldoze people, you are showing the utmost disrespect to that people, their heritage and their history and their very humanity. And it is frustrating. And to see how the Invictus Foundation has gone about being collaborative and getting consent and doing so with respect after having an entire theme of the Invictus Games be a home for respect, to me, it just sticks out that they practice what they preach, and it's so much more than just competition. And so when I was reading this, it really did touch me that I was just kind of like, I'm blown away, because although this should be the standard, it is not. The current standard falls so far below this. And the fact that not only are they practicing what they preach, but it matters to them to be this authentic, it really just shows and exemplifies the spirit of how they're operating. And how can you not get behind that? Okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but that really touched me. And if I didn't talk through it, I was gonna cry. So let's continue. The evening and presentation were extremely meaningful. Invictus Games 2025 and the couple could not be more proud to share the artist's piece with the world. The couple recognized the significance of the First Nations communities welcoming the Invictus Games onto their sacred land and are thankful for the warmth and hospitality. I'm thankful for their warmth and hospitality, and Harry and Meghan and Invictus Foundation, I am so thankful for you. Thank you so much. You are setting precedents that I hope you know the impact that will reverberate from this, but man, I don't think we can really see how far this is going to go. The impact of the way that they're operating is going to outlive us all. Thank you so much. Hundreds of years ago, if people had operated like this, we would have a whole lot more peace. Thanks for facilitating more peace in the world. That is how you practice what you preach. Let me get off my soapbox, y'all. I also wanted to include a very short video from the Squamish Litwack Cultural Center in Vancouver, Whistler. And it's a little bit of a video that's showing how to pronounce certain words. And I just thought it was very cute. And I also thought it was very helpful, but I just love the hosts of the video too. But since we were talking about the Cultural Center, I also wanted to share their video. So if you are attending the Invictus Games, go ahead and start brushing up on your language now. It'll be helpful to use. Trust me, Although most people at the Invictus Games in Dusseldorf spoke English, when I went into Dusseldorf, it did help me to know my German, and working with the hotel staff, it did help me to know my German. So I would encourage you to just brush up on a few key words now. And here's a video of really helpful tips from the Cultural Center.
I am from the Squamish Nation, or the Scohopmish Nation. Scohopmish. Scohopmish.
In the Lil'wat Nation, there's many different ways to greet someone, but to say hello, we say Cathwa'au. Cathwa'au.
How we pronounce hello in the Scohopmish language is no, no, no.
For the Lil'wat Nation, traditionally we would acknowledge Whistler Mountain as Huitama. Huitama. Huitama.
How we pronounce Whistler in the Scohopmish language is squeak, squeak, squeak.
Hoichach. Hoichach means thank you.
Kukstumkau. No, thank you.
How we say goodbye in the Squamish language is hoit maslav, hoit maslav, hoit maslav.
In the Lil'wat Nation language, to say goodbye, we say hopmath, hopmath, hopmath.
I just wanted to take a super short break to say, if you have not already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you are interested, feel free to participate in the live chat going on now, or feel free to leave a comment if you do not wish to engage in the live chat. Once again, I know I do this all the time. I'm enjoying a channel, I'm enjoying the video, I'm just having a great time, and I completely forget to hit subscribe. So please don't forget to hit subscribe. Don't forget to comment if you wish, and please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button so that the algorithm on YouTube knows that you like my content. Now, let's get back to the show. Of course, since we're on the subject, let me give you a little rundown of everything we know so far about the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler in 2025. Now, of course, I'm looking at the Invictus Games website, which is invictusgamesfoundation.org. The Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler in 2025 will actually take place February 8th through the 16th, 2025. Go ahead and get those tickets and hotel rooms now. The Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will offer a global platform to expand the range and profile of winter adaptive sports. With deep respect, I'm also pleased to share that the Games in Canada will be held in partnership with the First Nations in the spirit of truth and reconciliation with Indigenous communities. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex. The Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will bring together over 500 competitors from over 20 nations to compete in adaptive sports, including the new winter sports, alpine skiing, Nordic skiing, skeleton, and wheelchair curling, in addition to the core Invictus Games sports of indoor rowing, sitting volleyball, swimming, wheelchair rugby, and wheelchair basketball. Vancouver and Whistler were selected as the host cities by the Invictus Games Foundation following a competitive bid process. It is really competitive. The Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will be held on the traditional territories of the, I'm so sorry, I cannot pronounce these words correctly, but I'm going to give it my best shot. I definitely looked up how to say these words, and I still struggle, but I'll continue to practice and get better. Hopefully by the time I get to Vancouver Whistler, I'll be a pro. The Musqueam, the Squamish, the Silawooth, and the Salil, nations, the Skalumek, and Lil'wat Nation, the Invictus Games 2025 are working closely to ensure they respond to Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action and ensure Indigenous protocols are respected in all aspects of the Games. That is exactly what I'm talking about. It's just every step of the way, they are operating with such integrity. I just cannot say it enough. They are really operating by practicing what they preach. A few weeks ago, the Invictus Games Foundation actually uploaded an article giving more detail into the collaborative artwork between the First Four Nations. And since we're talking about it today, I thought this would be the perfect moment to talk more about that and give more detail. The title of this article is Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 unveils new visual identity designed by 4 leading First Nations artists. Talented artists and first of its kind collaboration honored with blanketing ceremony. The Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025, presented by ATCO in coordination with the first 4 host nations, recently convened a protocol gathering to honor the creative brilliance of 4 Indigenous artists who designed the new visual identity for the Games. The final artwork created by Levi Nelson of the Lil'wat Nation, Markle of the Musqueam Nation, Ray Naturo of the Squamish Nation, and Olivia George of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation represents the first time individual artists from each of the 4 host First Nations have come together to create a single piece of art for a major sporting event. The 4 British Columbia-based artists were chosen for their unique style, with one artist selected to represent each of the 4 host First Nations of Lil'wat, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. The artists were chosen by a selection committee of Indigenous leaders based on their diverse artistic mediums, including carving and weaving. The event hosted at the Vancouver Art Gallery served as a momentous occasion to recognize and express gratitude through a special blanketing ceremony for the dedication and hard work exhibited by these artists. The final designs are rooted in the cultural traditions of the Salish people of the Pacific Northwest. The artwork incorporates symbolic elements such as oval shapes, crescents, and trigons, reflecting the spiritual and cultural significance of the Salish art symbols, and showcasing the unique perspectives and ideas brought forth by each artist. Quote, "We are very proud of the work we did together and believe this artwork is a strong representation and reflection of our nation's culture, lands, and waters," says Levi Nelson of Lil'wat Nation, Mac Paul of Musqueam Nation, Ray Naturo of Squamish Nation, and Olivia George of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. "We were able to share our ideas, experiences, and cultural references to come together for the first time to convey meaning from our nations. We are honored to show our work on the world stage through the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025. Quote, "The collaboration to design the visual identity for the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 offers just one example of the important role that the 4 host First Nations will play in planning and co-hosting the Games," says Nick Booth, interim CEO of the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025. Through the power of sport, the 4 host First Nations and the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will work together to highlight the shared journey of recovery of Indigenous communities and military service members and veterans in overcoming adversity. As the 1 year to go milestone approaches for the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025, the protocol gathering underscored the shared journey of recovery between the Games and the 4 host First Nations. This event also allowed for a moment of reflection, emphasizing the ongoing collaboration between the organizing committee and the 4 host First Nations to co-host the Games on the traditional territories of the Lil'wat, Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. As co-hosts for the Games, the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 are committed to engaging with each nation, addressing Canada's truth and reconciliation calls to action, and respecting Indigenous protocols in all aspects of the Games. The organizing committee for the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 will ensure that the 4 host First Nations languages, traditions, protocols, and cultures are meaningfully acknowledged, respected, and represented in the planning, staging, and hosting of the Games. Photos have also just been released of Harry and Meghan, as well as a few others, celebrating Valentine's Day at an Italian restaurant in Whistler called Tu Caminetto. Now, these are paparazzi photos and they were shared by a very odd source. And so I'm not going to share them here. That's why they're blurred. But they're all over Twitter if you would like to see them in full. Also, it looks like they had a really good time. There are people already IDing Meghan's outfits from both the daytime outing, her evening outing with the First Nations, as well as her Valentine's Day dinner with her husband. And it looks like they're going out with friends. So I hope they had an amazing Valentine's Day, as well as all of you. It was a really good Valentine's Day for me. Capital Girl is probably tired of me. That's okay, because I'm going out again tonight to Shima. We're driving kind of far, but I really love Shima. It's a Brazilian steakhouse, and we typically celebrate Valentine's Day all week. That's how we've always done it, and I look forward to getting more good eats and also working out and going keto again next week. So prepare for me to be in all my videos next week looking like this. I'm gonna be hungry. So anyway, that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a really nice time seeing Harry and Meghan on their 1 year to go day one excursion. As we see more events and get more information and details, you will see me back here sharing them here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please don't forget to go ahead and like this video if you would like to, share so more people can find the channel. And if you've been watching and forgot to subscribe, no worries, I won't tell anyone. Just go ahead and subscribe now. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time. Bye.